Mike Frankel of SNJ Today. Good morning, Mike. How are you, buddy?
Hey, guys. How we doing today?
Good, good. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays. Hope you had a nice Christmas yesterday with your family.
Yeah, same to you guys. I'm running on leftover Christmas cookies and eggnog right now, so I'm feeling pretty good.
How's the little guy doing? Was he pretty excited?
Yeah, he's feeling pretty good. You know, Dad gets a little bit tired, but what you don't realize is putting all these things together overnight, ready for Christmas morning, isn't the easiest thing in the world. But yeah, no better feeling than to see a little guy open some presents on Christmas morning.
Awesome. Great stuff, man. We're kind of doing a year in view theme today, and we just spoke to Mike McGarry, got some of his thoughts on some of the top stories of the year. I guess give us some of your top stories, some of the things you worked on this year, and some of the stories that really stood out to you.
There'll probably be a lot of the same ones that you guys have already been talking about. But, you know, if you go back to the last winter, officially when 2015 started, it's obviously basketball season. So you're talking about a couple area teams making some pretty nice runs. You know, you start on the girls' side, and it seemed like Ocean City and Lower Cape May were going back and forth all season. I think they split wins during the regular season. And, of course, they were destined to meet up in the Cape Atlantic League Championship game where Ocean City won. So, you know, that's a feather in the cap for the Red Raiders. But then, you know, you have Lower Cape May going on to win the South Jersey Group 2 title with Lauren Holden and that great group of seniors. So, you know, great runs from both of those teams. And then you go over to the boys' side, and to be honest, last season it was pretty much St. Augustine and then everyone else. And, you know, the Hermits got on a great roll. Syed Nelson, Justin Mutz, two of those guys sort of emerged as two of the top players in South Jersey, if not the state. And unfortunately for them, what sticks out to me is covering that South Jersey championship game against Christian Brothers Academy up at Jackson Liberty High School, where the Hermits lost, but actually I thought played one of their better games of the season. They just ran into an absolute buzzsaw. CBA, I think, shot 11 for 12 from 3 in that game, and you know, some of them were fadeaways falling out of bounds, and it's just a deal where there's nothing else you can do at that point. I mean, you know, we've all played sports, covered sports, and sometimes, you know, you play your best game or one of your better games and you still don't win. And what can you do but just, you know, sort of clap your hands for the other team. So great run from the Hermits last season during hoops here. And then you go into the spring and of course, Holy Spirit sticks out and they went on that mainland type run, right? I mean, you go 2 years back, the Mustangs were under 500. Nobody was talking about them. All of a sudden they catch fire at the right time, win a state championship. And that's how it seemed to go for the Spartans last spring. So an outstanding run from them. Obviously, the summer is a little bit slower in terms of, you know, local sports, but then you go into the fall, and I think Cedar Creek sticks out, obviously. You know, the Pirates looking for their first South Jersey championship. They were close a couple years ago with guys like Gary Melton and Doo-Wop Mitchell, and now it seems like the last names were the same, but the first names were different. And they finally get it done. And, you know, that was a great run they went on. I think they either trailed or were really close in all three of those games, and they played against three different Colonial Conference teams, all really powerhouse schools from that region. And, of course, the dramatic finish over West Deptford at Rowan. And then, obviously, St. Joe, I think that flies a little bit under the radar because we're used to St. Joe winning. But, you know, with all respect to the Wildcats, this was far from St. Joe's best team in terms of recent years. And you had the Horn brothers who were sort of household names for South Jersey football fans, but I think what a lot of people don't know is those kids were banged up all year long, and this year more than ever, you know, head coach Falsacco and company, they really relied on those kids. They got most of the touches, and week in, week out, they're playing hurt. So obviously for St. Joe to sort of get through that schedule, they took the loss to St. Augustine, and again, that's another story. The Hermits had an outstanding season on the football field, but for St. Joe to get through that schedule, find their way through the playoffs and end up on top again, I think is another great story. So those are the ones that stick out, but I'm sure there's a lot more you guys have been talking about.
Sure. We're talking with Mike Frankel from SNJ Today. Mike, want to take it back into basketball a little bit. Last year you mentioned Lauren Holden, and I don't know if a lot of people really got to see her play, you know, being that she was way down in Lower Cape May. What an outstanding high school basketball career, over 2,000 points. She became only the sixth girl in Cape Atlantic or Cumberland counties to ever reach that number. Put that into perspective a little bit for the casual basketball fan in terms of getting 2,000 points in high school. You're talking maybe, 20 to 22 games a year, 25 if you go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, outstanding career, and it's one of those deals where, you know, maybe her freshman and sophomore year, especially her freshman year, people don't quite know who she is. Obviously, they know the last name. The Holden name is pretty strong in Lower Cape May and Irma, but maybe she doesn't get the attention on the court, right? So she racks up those big numbers in those early years and sort of sets the pace. And then what I think a lot of people don't consider is, after that, she's sort of a marked woman, a marked girl. They're going to double team her. They're going to play box and one, triangle and two, and stick both of those two on her. So it's a tough deal where she's getting double teamed and she's getting all the attention in terms of defensive game plans for junior and senior year. So for her to still score is outstanding. But I think also maybe what a lot of people don't consider is how good of a teammate she was. I mean, that was a great close group of seniors on that Lower Cape May girls team last year. And, she'd have some games where maybe she'd shoot, 4 for 12, 4 for 13. But if you look further in the box score, she'd have 9 or 10 assists and, she'd be getting some steals. So she did it in a number of ways for Lower Cape May. And I talked about it off the top. It was sort of, the Holden show, but a great supporting cast for them. And Lower Cape May going back and forth with Ocean City on the girls' side. And, each team got a championship. Ocean City got the Cal one, and Lower Cape May got the South Jersey Group 2 one.
One of the other really cool basketball stories was kind of the last couple of years, the development of Syed Nelson. We've been talking a lot about him this year. And to think back, he was a 5'4" freshman who was obviously a really good ball handler, but that was kind of what he was, just a ball handler. And to see the way he's progressed into the player he is now and just doing everything on the court, I think he had 32 points in the season opener. And what an outstanding transformation. He grew to 6'1", and now he's going to be taking his game to American University next year. Talk about him a little bit and just how much he's progressed in the last 4 years.
Yeah, first of all, just an outstanding kid. I mean, just a well-raised kid. I've had a chance to talk to him a number of times over the years, obviously. So, one of those guys you root for, and you maybe rooted for him a little bit more when he was undersized. But, he's like you said, he had that growth spurt. He put on some muscle. And one of the things that he talked to me about before this season is he's able to fight through contact better than ever. I mean, he's got, 10, 15, maybe 20 extra pounds of muscle on his frame. So, you're talking about a lot more and one opportunities, taking some hacks, taking some swats as he goes through the lane and still able to finish. But, yeah, he sort of popped onto the state radar last year. I think all of us in South Jersey knew about him playing as a freshman, as you mentioned, and it was sort of eye-opening because he was so small but still making plays out there. But the run that he led the Hermits on last year sort of put him on the state radar, and I think expectations for this season are almost through the roof. And, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier. They ran into CBA last year, so they fell short of their ultimate goal. And everyone expects St. Augustine to contend for a South Jersey and state championship this year. And, again, there's some really tough teams in non-public A, but he's going to have to be the catalyst. They have Justin Mutz, and he's an outstanding player as well. But, yeah, you look for Syed Nelson to really have an outstanding season if he's able to stay healthy. And I think American University got a steal because he's going to play point guard there next season.
Talking with Mike Frankel of SNJ Today. Mike, we talked about this with Mike McGarry a little bit, the high school baseball season last spring and that amazing run that Holy Spirit went on. We kind of forget that Mainland, defended its South Jersey Group 3 title, and they went to the semis of Group 3, and they've been on a really great run the last couple of years. And a lot of these other teams in South Jersey, Williamstown did a great job under first-year coach Joe Smith. Delsey went on a nice run last year to the South Jersey Group 3 final against Mainland. Sort of just a resurgence in high school baseball in South Jersey, and it's really neat to see, getting back to kind of the, no pun intended, the glory days, of the 80s and 90s when there were so many good teams around here. And it's nice to see baseball in the spring become what it has been the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Buna is another team you throw in there too, if I'm not mistaken. I think
sure.
Buna, obviously they won the state championship 2 years ago. I believe they defended their South Jersey title last year. So, yeah, if you know the area, Sully, you look back a couple of years. I mean, we were talking about no South Jersey public team had ever won a state championship, and all of a sudden 2 years ago, Mainland and Buna do it on the same day. I forget who actually finished their game first. Who can officially say they were the first?
I think Buna won theirs first. They were like a 12:30 game, something like that.
Right. So that'll be that little asterisk at the end of that story. But really, the two of them win a state championship. For the first time for any Cal public school. And, of course, St. Augustine, won a state championship a couple years back. I think it was 2011 under Mike Bialone. But, yeah, I started covering high school sports in the area around, 2007. And at that time, baseball was sort of an afterthought. I mean, sure, you had a great story pop up here and there. But in terms of teams collecting South Jersey championships, state championships, quite honestly, it just wasn't happening back then. I mean, you had some cool stories when Sacred Heart was still open. The Lions won the Diamond Classic right around there, and some other teams too. I think Buna won the Diamond Classic a couple years before they won that state championship, and they went to the state final, and maybe in that same season or the season before or after. So, you had some teams flirting with that ultimate prize, but to get there in a big way, and then Holy Spirit does last year. I don't know if it's the Mike Trout, Matt Caesar effect, or if just the kids are more focusing on baseball year round. I think you're seeing a little bit of that too, sort of the specialized sports, and that's a whole different conversation. But you're having some kids play baseball year-round, whether it's getting the swings in inside or these training facilities around South Jersey. So, the level of play really going up for teams in the Cape Atlantic League and South Jersey as a whole.
Yeah, one story we kind of overlooked so far this morning was the emergence of mainland sophomore Alyssa Aldridge on the cross-country scene. And what an amazing season she had. She didn't lose any weekend the entire fall, and then goes to San Diego and finishes as one of the top 30 girls in the nation. What an amazing feat as a sophomore, 15, 16 years old to be doing what she's doing is really neat to see it, and to know that she's still got 2 more years to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me put it to you this way. It's not always easy to cover cross country with a camera the way I have to do it, whether it was for NBC 40 up until the end of 2014 or obviously with SNJ Today these days. But here's the best compliment I can give Alyssa Aldridge. So I'm at the finish line with the camera, and obviously the only shots I need are runners crossing the finish line. Most races I'll just keep the camera on because everyone comes in pretty close to one another.
Right.
Well, in covering Aldridge this year, she'll come in, and then if I want to save my battery, I basically have to turn the camera off for the next few minutes to wait for the next finisher. So that's the biggest compliment I can get her. And yeah, it's a great story, and you mentioned it. She's so young, and obviously we're going to be hearing a lot about her in years to come.
Mike, a couple of minutes before we let you go here, I wanted to get into yourself personally a little bit and tell us about SNJ Today. This was obviously the highlight of your year, kind of launching this new television station. Obviously, a lot of people were disappointed that NBC 40 went off the air, and yourself and Pete Thompson had gained such a big following around here in terms of your high school football coverage and all that kind of stuff. And got to be an exciting time for you to be at the forefront of launching this new station.
Yeah, a lot of hard work, and you find yourself constantly having to sort of tell and explain to people where you are. So we'll do that off the top. I mean, it's SNJ Today, and if listeners out there haven't heard of it, it's not the same as NBC 40. Some of the faces are the same. Some of the faces are different. We're in a different spot on the dial. It's channel 26 in Atlantic and Cape May County, 789 up on HD, and it's channel 4 in other areas. So, if you search us for WACP, it's where we buy time. We do weekly news, 7 and 11. So it's a lot of the same faces. It's some different faces too. But for me personally, and I can speak for Pete Thompson too, obviously helped me out quite a bit during high school football season, and he's going to actually fill in for me a couple of days next week. We get to do what we've enjoyed doing for the last, 8 to 10 years, which is sort of giving these high school athletes, local college athletes, and even local youth athletes a platform, whether it's shooting highlights of their games or what's more fun for me is sort of telling these personal stories and things like that. So, yeah, it's a challenge, sort of getting a local station going, obviously, and you don't like to mislead people and say NBC 40 is back because it's not back. It never will be. But if you liked watching that, if you like the local news coverage, especially the local sports coverage, I think you're going to want to definitely check out SNJ Today. And, it's baby steps. We do 2 shows a day, and it's no secret the second show is exactly the same as the first. We're a small staff. So, high school basketball season, if a team plays, say tonight, this is the weekend, so it's a bad example. If a team plays Monday night, you're going to see those highlights Tuesday. And it's just the best we can do right now, but we're working toward actually able to be doing it live and adding more staff for a second show. So, it's baby steps, but the coverage is definitely there. So I recommend people to check us out if they haven't done so already.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize in the news, sports media business, sometimes it can be difficult. You lose a job, you get laid off, that kind of thing. And to stay in that business, you might have to be willing to move to Ohio or Texas or something like that and uproot your family. And a guy like yourself who loves the South Jersey area, you have a young son and raising a family. And how neat was that to be able to get this opportunity to stay in the area and continue to do what you love to do?
Yeah, it's awesome. I can't thank the folks at SNJ Today enough because, I love the area, obviously. And, I think we've talked about this. Any on the TV side, it can be tough at the local level. To be honest, the money isn't always great, and you're sort of having to do all the jobs. If people see me out on the sidelines or out on the court, I'm the one with the camera too, and you go back and you do the editing. But at the end of the day, you get, like you said, you get a chance to cover an area that you love. And I grew up around here. I grew up in Ocean City, and played some youth sports, some high school sports, and played sort of a loose term. I think I played it also at the bench quite a bit. But just love the area, and like you said, started a family here, and so I've been thankful to get the opportunity with SNJ Today and get a chance to sort of build our brand there, and at the same time, give the people what they've come to expect, which is great local television coverage of their high school sports, their youth sports, their college sports. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a busy 2015. I'm not going to lie to you, Sully. But, I think 2016 will be a little smoother in terms of, how much I'm able to get to. On a day-to-day basis, I'm basically a one-man department there. So
right.
Some days, especially early on there, I just basically got exhausted trying to cover everything. And so you settle into maybe covering a couple things thoroughly, and then that's what it is. And then you leave it up to guys like Mike McGarry at the Press of Atlantic City. If you want to read the box scores of all the other games, you definitely check them out there.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying on that. I kind of wore myself down towards the end of the year, kind of taking next week to relax a little bit. I'll be out at some of the events, but like you said, you try to do so much, and you just can't do it all as one guy. So, but what I really liked about what you did this year were some of those little 2 to 3 minute feature stories, that we'd see up online and that kind of thing. Any particular one stand out where you got done with the story and you were like, man, that was a really fun story to work on?
Yeah, I think it was some of the stuff that was a little more off the beaten path. I think I heard Mike McGarry talk about it a little bit, but I had a chance to visit with Thomas Walkup and his mother, and then for people that are unfamiliar,
that was a great story. Yeah,
in Millville, and had really a lot of trouble with his vision, and to the point where he, I guess, was legally blind, and he needed this surgery. And obviously, coming from Millville, and he played sports, as best as he could with his condition, and a huge Mike Trout fan. So it just so happened the surgery, the doctor he needed to see was out in California. So I did a preview story. I didn't get a chance to go out to California, but I talked to him before, and obviously I've been getting updates from his mom afterwards. And yeah, just a great story. And I think Mike McGarry touched on it. He had a chance to go out there. He had the surgery. By all accounts, was very successful. Had a chance to meet Mike Trout on the field before an Angels game. So that was really neat. And then more recently, I actually went up to Washington Township because the team is called the Vineland Sled Stars, but they play at an ice rink in Washington Township. And it's sled hockey. It's kids with various physical disabilities, and they're playing on sleds. And, you take a look at it and you say, oh, that's cool. And then, but when you really think about it and talk to these kids, man, it's really difficult. And, these kids, they go through every day of their life relying on other people, whether it's to help them around in a wheelchair or, help them do this or that. But to see those kids out on the ice with that autonomy, there's no one really helping them out there. They're working hard with their upper bodies, pushing themselves around on those sleds. I mean, you want to talk about where the rubber meets the road in terms of sports and sports coverage. I mean, nothing gets better than that.
Yeah, and one thing we really didn't touch on yet in the Today Show was the Field of Dreams over there in Absecon and the great things they've been doing the last couple of years. I think they're building a miniature golf course over there. That thing has really just exploded the last couple of years. We got about 30 seconds left with you. Talk about that a little bit and how much that has meant to the community. I know there's probably over 100 kids involved with that now. Yeah,
I've covered that a number of years for NBC 40, and the sled hockey thing I was just talking about, it's basically the same deal with the Field of Dreams. I mean, it's this dedicated group of people giving these kids with, whether it's physical disabilities or mental disabilities, the chance to be part of a team. And if you just look at the look on these kids' faces when they're getting a chance to play, and some of them are able to do it on their own, some of them need a little bit of help, but to be part of a team sport like that, you can't say enough about the people that organize that and that volunteer their time to help those kids just have a great time out there on the field.
Great stuff, Mike. Appreciate you hopping on board, and enjoy the rest of your holiday season. We'll be catching up with you soon.
All right, man. I'm going to get back to my eggnog. You guys have a good one.
There you go. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
That was Mike Frankel of SNJ Today.